Welcome to Season 2 of The Man Who Woke Up the Buddha. This first episode is called Sid Gets His Ducks in a Row. By the way, I have a gift for paid annual subscribers, actually 2 gifts. An author's proof of Season 1 for reference or to get up to date, and an official Sid Om cap. There are details on the online post. Now, in the final episode of Season 1, Sid crashed into a daycare chain gang, which resulted in his receiving priceless blessings and words of wisdom from Raggedy Ann and her eponymous 3-year-old friend, Annie. Then he sat down blissfully on a park bench while the Buddha continued to shake his head in amusement over his latest and strangest incarnation. In Season 2, Sid will continue to deconstruct traditional spiritual assumptions and, at times, everyday common sense, as he goes through a second brain surgery, radiation, and increasingly bizarre visitations from ancient pharaohs, philosophers, warriors, and others. Meanwhile, his friends, family, and the relatively eternal Buddha himself will find new ways to deal with his ever-changing Buddha nature, and he begins to pass his eclectic teachings on to his grandchildren. So, Sid Gets His Ducks in a Row, Episode 1 of Season 2 of The Man Who Woke Up the Buddha. Sid was at the park waiting for Diane to pick him up to drive to the hospital for his second surgery. Dr. Joris, a.k.a. Dr. J, said he had erred on the side of caution in his first surgery because he didn't want to damage healthy brain tissue and didn't even know for sure if the growth was malignant. This explanation hadn't made a whole lot of sense to Sid, since he had never erred on the side of caution in his life, and had been damaging healthy brain tissue since his first experience with Boone's Farm apple wine in the mid-60s. There was an urban, actually college campus legend back then that the reason Boone's Farm caused such a virulent drunk was that it was laced with formaldehyde. The truth was less insidious. Before wine coolers, it was simply the most lethal combination of alcohol and sugar kids could get their hands on, which made it a common gateway drug. Which reminded Sid of another famous urban legend of the time, that they'd never done a longitudinal study of people over 75 who had smoked Lucky Strikes their whole lives because they couldn't find anyone alive who met that criteria. That wasn't true either, but it had scared Sid into switching to Chesterfield Kings, then Pall Malls, Camels, and Camel filters. He ended up smoking Carltons, a cigarette so filtered you could get a hernia sucking on the things, while blowing out enough secondhand smoke to get arrested on charges of child endangerment. He'd quit Boone's Farm by the time he was 19 and cigarettes by the time he was 40, although he had secretly just bought a pack to celebrate his impending demise. It was back at his office at the local library, waiting for the day when he decided, it's now or never. It's actually now and ever, the Buddha thought. Sid walked over to the duck pond, where he'd have a good view of both the ducks and the parking lot while waiting for Di. There, the ducks were contemplating their good fortune, as 2 little boys ran down and threw pieces of bread in the water before running back up to get more from their mom. Don't try this at home. It's really not good for ducks to eat a lot of bread. Being the Buddha still kind of baffled Sid in some ways. Actually, being Sid kind of baffled the Buddha in some ways. Like the emptying your mind thing. Not my idea, the Buddha thought. Why would you want to empty your mind anyway, Sid wondered. His mind was full of all kinds of really fun stuff. Thoughts of being young and girls and drinking and getting high. Then thoughts of being middle-aged and women and drinking and getting high. And now thoughts of being, well, elderly, and women, and drinking and getting high. Not to mention, all along the way, marriage, better not forget that, children, grandchildren, making money and losing it, going to baseball games and rock concerts, traveling the country and the world, having fancy dinners, doing the business deals that made them possible, and hundreds of other things, large and small, that made having a body so much fun. One of the best reasons to have a body, the Buddha agreed. But, Sid had realized, This cancer thing was threatening to push some of those more fun thoughts out of the way, just like that big selfish duckling who kept shooing away its little siblings. Stuff like that always going to happen, he thought wistfully. Otherwise, the little ducks wouldn't learn how to overcome adversity and become parents of another generation of ducklings. And people much like himself wouldn't die, and there wouldn't be new little people running back and forth to feed them. Sid had the feeling he'd skipped a few steps, but there was a certain elegance to the whole thing. It made him want to pat the universe on the back and say, "Good job, universe." Very true, the Buddha thought, although it has a lot of help. Remember, I'm happy to announce that Sid and the Buddha are giving it away. I printed a limited edition of Season 1 of The Man Who Woke Up the Buddha, and I'm sending one along with a custom Sid Om cap to anyone who signs up or has signed up for an annual paid subscription. Thanks for listening to The Man Who Woke Up the Buddha, now in Season 2.